Hi everyone. Today we're diving deep into essential truths you must know in your life, covering psychology, finance, work, health, and life philosophy. If you enjoy content that sharpens the mind while calming the soul, consider liking and subscribing, only if it feels right. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. Sunk cost fallacy. There's something quietly dangerous about investing time, money, or energy into something and then realizing it's not working. But instead of walking away, we double down. We say, "I've already spent too much on this to quit now." That is the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that you should continue with something just because you've already invested in it. Imagine someone sitting through a terrible movie just because they paid for the ticket, or someone staying in a toxic relationship because they have been together for years, or an entrepreneur sinking more money into a failing business because they've already spent so much trying to make it work. Logically, those past costs are gone. They're sunk. The only thing that matters is what happens next, but our brains struggle with that. Why? Because we hate loss. We want to justify our past decisions even when they no longer serve us. We confuse commitment with wisdom. Walking away feels like giving up, but it's often the smarter, braver choice. The truth is, staying stuck is far more expensive than letting go. That extra year in a lifeless job or one more semester in a major you hate, that's time you never get back. And yet people fear wasting what's already gone instead of protecting what's still left. The sunk cost fallacy doesn't just live in big life choices, it shows up in small ways too, finishing a boring book, staying at a bad party, even arguing a point long after realizing you were wrong. And every time we let it win, we trade freedom for ego. To live wisely, you have to be willing to cut your losses. Ask yourself, would I choose this again if I hadn't already started? If the answer is no, you owe yourself honesty. Don't be loyal to mistakes just because you made them. Letting go isn't quitting. It's choosing your future over your past. Halo effect. The mind is a pattern-hungry machine, and sometimes it takes one shiny trait and lets everything else blind. That's the halo effect, a cognitive bias where we assume someone's overall character based on a single positive impression. Take this. You meet someone attractive, well-dressed, confident. You might instantly assume they're smart, kind, capable, even trustworthy, without evidence. Why? Because their good looks or charisma halo over everything else. It's not just people either. A sleek product design makes you think it works better. A popular teacher gets better student ratings even if they're less effective. It's the brain's lazy shortcut. If one thing is good, then everything must be. But the halo effect could be dangerous. It makes us overlook flaws. It makes us fall for charm instead of character. It's why people vote for likable politicians who don't have a strong track record, or why we give celebrities more credibility than they've earned. It's also why someone in a suit gets treated with more respect than someone in casual clothes, even if the latter is more qualified. The reverse is true too, known as the horns effect. One negative trait can poison how we see someone entirely. If someone is awkward, or has an accent, or makes one mistake, we might unfairly judge their whole personality. So, what can you do about it? Well, you slow down. You separate traits. Just because someone is charming doesn't mean they're honest. Just because a brand looks luxurious doesn't mean the product is reliable. The halo effect is subtle, sneaky, but catching it gives you power. We live in a world of polished surfaces. But if you want real insight, in people, in choices, in life, you have to see past the shine. True wisdom is learning to separate the glow from the truth beneath it. Cognitive dissonance. There's a peculiar kind of discomfort we feel when our beliefs don't match our actions, or when two ideas in our head clash. That twisting, uneasy feeling, that's cognitive dissonance. Let's say you believe in healthy living, but you eat fast food every night. Or you think of yourself as honest, but you lie to a friend. Or you see yourself as open-minded, but you judge people without realizing it. That inner tension, that mental itch, is your brain trying to resolve the conflict between your thoughts and your behavior. Our minds crave harmony, so when contradictions arise, we scramble to make them make sense. We might justify the action. I've had a long day, I deserve this burger. We might deny the inconsistency. It's not that bad. Or even change our belief altogether. Fast food isn't as unhealthy as they say. That's how dissonance works. It pushes us to protect our identity, even if it means bending the truth. Cognitive dissonance isn't a flaw, it's a signal, a clue that something inside you is out of alignment. But many people numb it. They surround themselves with opinions that match theirs. They ignore facts that contradict their worldview. They cling to old beliefs even when new evidence says otherwise, just to avoid that mental friction. But there's power in leaning into the discomfort. It means you're growing. It means your mind is trying to adjust. It's in that gap between who you are and who you want to be that change begins. Recognizing cognitive dissonance can make you more honest, more self-aware, and more forgiving. You'll understand why people defend bad habits or hold on to harmful beliefs. You'll see it in arguments, politics, even in yourself. The key isn't to eliminate dissonance, it's to listen to it. Let it guide you toward truth instead of running from it. Because when your beliefs and your actions align, that's when peace begins. And peace, after all, is clarity without conflict.
Confirmation bias. You're scrolling online and you see two articles. One agrees with what you already believe, the other challenges it. Which do you click? Most of us instinctively go for the one that confirms our views. That's confirmation bias, the natural tendency to seek out, favor, and remember information that supports what we already think, while ignoring or dismissing what contradicts it. It's not just about facts, it's about comfort. Our brains love feeling right. It makes us feel safe, smart, and in control. So we surround ourselves with voices and ideas that align with our opinions. We follow social media accounts that align with our opinions. We nod along when someone says what we already believe, and we get defensive when someone doesn't. The danger? Confirmation bias traps us in echo chambers. It makes us blind to new information. It feeds division, politically, socially, even personally. If someone believes a false idea and only reads things that support it, they become more and more convinced they're correct, even as they drift further from the truth. It's not just a problem for other people. We all do it. Even brilliant thinkers fall into this trap. The real skill is noticing when it's happening. So what can you do? Start by welcoming discomfort. If something challenges your belief, don't instantly reject it. Pause. Ask yourself, am I judging this fairly or just protecting my view? Listen to people you disagree with, not to fight, but to understand. Be curious, not just convinced. The goal isn't to abandon all beliefs. It's to make sure your beliefs are built on truth, not just repetition. When you overcome confirmation bias, you don't just become smarter, you become freer. You're no longer chained to old opinions. You become someone who seeks truth, even when it's uncomfortable.
Imposter syndrome. You walk into a room full of smart, talented people. Everyone's talking confidently, sharing ideas. You smile, nod, but deep down you're thinking, what am I doing here? They're going to find out I don't belong. That silent fear is called imposter syndrome. The belief that your success is fake, and sooner or later someone will expose you as a fraud. It doesn't matter if you've achieved real things. You could be top of your class, a skilled worker, a great parent, and still feel like you just got lucky or that you've tricked everyone into thinking you're good. Meanwhile, others seem so sure of themselves. But here's the secret. Many of them are feeling exactly the same way. Imposter syndrome doesn't discriminate. It hits students, professionals, creatives, even CEOs, especially those who care deeply about doing well. In a strange twist, the more you grow, the more you feel like a fraud, because you're always aware of what you don't know. Ironically, the people who never doubt themselves often should. This mindset can hold you back. It makes you afraid to take risks, speak up, or own your achievements. It whispers, "You're not good enough." But here's the truth. Feeling like an imposter doesn't mean you are one. It means you have a conscience. You're growing. You care. The best way to fight it, acknowledge it. Talk about it. Celebrate your progress, not just your perfection. Keep a list of what you've actually accomplished, not to boast, but to remind yourself. And when doubt creeps in, ask, would I say this to a friend? If not, why say it to yourself? You don't have to feel 100% confident to be capable. Sometimes you just have to show up anyway, fear and all. You belong more than you know. Even when your inner voice says you're faking it, remember, real frauds don't worry about being frauds.
Placebo effect. Imagine someone gives you a pill and says it will reduce your pain. You take it, and within minutes you start to feel better. But later you discover the pill had no active ingredients at all. Still, it worked. That's the mysterious power of the placebo effect, when your body responds to a treatment that's fake simply because you believed it was real. At first glance, this might seem like a trick of the mind, but science shows it's very real. The belief itself, the expectation of healing, can trigger actual chemical responses in the brain. Placebos have been shown to reduce pain, ease anxiety, improve sleep, even mimic the effects of real medications in some cases. This doesn't mean that belief cures everything, but it does reveal how deeply connected the mind and body really are. Your thoughts don't just stay in your head, they ripple through your hormones, your immune system, your entire biology. That's why optimism, rituals, and even hope can carry real health benefits. On the flip side, there's the nocebo effect, where negative expectations cause harm. If someone tells you a harmless pill has nasty side effects, you might actually feel them. Your brain is powerful, for better or worse. The placebo effect reminds us not to dismiss the role of belief in healing. It doesn't mean we should reject medicine or science, quite the opposite. It means that healing is layered. Trust, ritual, care, and expectation all matter. Your doctor's words, your attitude, even the color of a pill can shift your brain's chemistry. In daily life, this shows up in more places than you think. From the comfort of a favorite tea to the calming effect of a bedtime routine, belief can enhance experience. It's not fake healing, it's self-activation. So, next time you feel your body respond to something harmless, don't brush it off. It might just be your mind doing what it was designed to do, help you heal.
Deja vu. You walk into a room or hear someone say something and suddenly it hits you. You've experienced this before. Every detail feels familiar, but you can't remember when or how. That strange, fleeting moment is called deja vu, French for already seen. It feels mystical, even magical, like your memory is bending through time. But what's really happening? Deja vu isn't a glimpse of a past life or a glitch in the matrix. It's a cognitive phenomenon, a brief misfire in the brain's memory system. Scientists believe it happens when your brain processes something in two different ways at nearly the same time.
One part of the brain registers the event as familiar before the other can confirm whether it's truly a memory. The result, a false sense of recognition. It's most common in young adults and tends to occur when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. It doesn't mean anything is wrong. In fact, people with healthy brains experience déjà vu more often. It's a sign that your memory system is sharp enough to detect mismatches. Still, it's unsettling. For a second, it feels like time folds. Some researchers think déjà vu might be the brain testing your memory system, like a quality control check. Others think it's linked to attention and perception being slightly out of sync, like an echo inside your mind. Whatever the cause, déjà vu reminds us of how complex and mysterious our minds really are. Memory isn't a video camera. It's a fluid, active process, constantly constructing and reconstructing our experience of reality. And sometimes it gets a little weird. So, the next time you feel déjà vu, don't panic and don't overthink. It's not a sign or a prophecy. It's a glitch, yes, but a beautiful one. A reminder that even in the ordinary, your brain can create moments that feel profound, strange, and unforgettable.
Sleep paralysis. You wake up, or at least your mind does. Your eyes are open, you can see the room, but you can't move. You try to scream, but nothing comes out. And then, the presence. A shadow at the edge of your bed, a weight on your chest. Panic floods in. This is sleep paralysis, one of the most terrifying sleep-related experiences a person can have. And if you've gone through it, you know it feels real. But what is it really? Sleep paralysis happens when your brain wakes up during REM sleep, the stage where we dream, but your body hasn't caught up. During REM, your muscles are temporarily paralyzed, so you don't physically act out your dreams. It's a natural safety feature. But sometimes the brain wakes up before the body does, and you become conscious while still paralyzed. In that half-awake state, dreams can leak into reality. That's why many people report seeing shadowy figures, hearing voices, or feeling something pressing down on them. It's not a demon, it's your dream brain still firing while your conscious mind tries to make sense of it. Sleep paralysis is surprisingly common. About 1 in 4 people will experience it at least once. It can be triggered by sleep deprivation, irregular schedules, stress, or even sleeping on your back. And while it's terrifying, it's not dangerous. What helps? Understanding. When you know what's happening, it becomes less terrifying. If you experience it, try to stay calm. Focus on slow breathing. Blink. Try wiggling a finger or toe. Small movements can help you fully wake. And most importantly, improve your sleep hygiene. Regular bedtime, less screen time, and stress reduction can reduce episodes. Sleep paralysis reminds us how fragile the border between sleep and waking really is. It's a glitch in the most mysterious system we have, our consciousness. Scary, yes, but also deeply human. And remember, the shadows aren't real, but your strength to face them is.
Negativity bias. Think back to the last time someone gave you a compliment, and then the last time someone criticized you. Which one stuck longer? Which one echoed in your head? If you're like most people, it's the negative comment. That's not weakness, it's negativity bias, a deeply wired survival instinct in the human brain. Thousands of years ago, noticing danger kept us alive. Our ancestors needed to remember which plants made them sick, which animals attacked, and which people betrayed. Forgetting a positive moment had little consequence. Forgetting a threat could be deadly. So evolution gave our brains a powerful tool. Prioritize the negative. Even now, in a safer world, that ancient system still rules our perception. Bad news grabs headlines. One rude comment can ruin a day full of kindness. One mistake in a sea of successes can make us feel like failures. Our brains don't just notice negativity, they hold on to it longer, process it more deeply, and revisit it more often. This bias affects everything: our self-esteem, relationships, work, even how we view the world. It makes us cautious, skeptical, sometimes anxious. But here's the twist: just because it's natural doesn't mean it has to control you. You can retrain your brain. Gratitude journaling, for instance, helps rewire your focus. Actively reflecting on 3 good things daily, no matter how small, can start to balance the scale. Mindfulness practices, positive self-talk, and even surrounding yourself with optimistic voices all help shift the mental lens. Knowing about negativity bias isn't about denying problems. It's about seeing clearly. When something bad happens, ask, is this really the whole story? Often, it's just one loud voice in a quiet crowd of good. Your mind evolved to protect you, not punish you. Train it, nurture it, and remind it. Not every shadow is a threat, and not every mistake is the end.
The spotlight effect. You walk into a room and suddenly feel like everyone's watching you. You trip slightly, stumble over your words, or notice a stain on your shirt, and now you're convinced the entire room saw it. But here's the truth: they probably didn't notice at all. That overwhelming feeling of being seen and judged, that's called the spotlight effect. It's a cognitive bias where we believe we're being noticed more than we really are. Why? Because we live inside our own heads. We know how we look, how we feel, what we're wearing, what we just said. So we assume others are paying as much attention as we are. But most people are far too wrapped up in their own concerns to focus on you. Research backs this up. In one famous study, participants wore an embarrassing T-shirt into a room and were asked to estimate how many people noticed it. They guessed nearly half the group did. The actual number was much lower. This isn't to say people never notice things about you, but it's far less often than you fear. The spotlight effect makes us overly self-conscious. It fuels social anxiety, fear of public speaking, and that need to perform, even in casual settings. We replay awkward moments in our heads long after others have moved on, if they noticed at all. So how do you deal with it? Realize this: you are not the main character in everyone else's story. You're a background character, if you even appear at all. That may sound harsh, but it's freeing. You can relax. You can be human. You can mess up. When you make peace with the fact that most people aren't judging you constantly, you open yourself up to genuine expression. You stop performing and start participating. And that's where real connection happens. So next time your mind screams, "They're all looking at me," smile, because they're probably not.
Attachment styles. Why do some people fall in love easily while others pull away the moment things get close? Why do some constantly fear abandonment while others seem to shut down during emotional conversations? The answer might lie in their attachment style, a psychological pattern developed in childhood that affects how we connect to others in adulthood. There are 4 main attachment styles. Secure. You feel comfortable with closeness and independence. You trust easily and communicate openly. Anxious. You crave intimacy but constantly worry about being abandoned. You might seem clingy or overly sensitive. Avoidant. You value independence so much that closeness feels suffocating. You tend to pull away or shut down emotionally. Disorganized. A mix of both anxious and avoidant behaviors, often rooted in trauma or unstable early relationships. These styles are usually formed through early interactions with caregivers. If your emotional needs were met consistently, you likely developed secure attachment. But if love came with fear, inconsistency, or neglect, other styles may have formed as coping mechanisms. Knowing your attachment style can be life-changing. It helps you understand patterns in your relationships, like why you chase unavailable people, fear intimacy, or sabotage healthy love. It also builds empathy. When someone pulls away or clings too tightly, they're not trying to hurt you. They're protecting themselves the only way they know how. The good news is, attachment styles aren't permanent. With awareness, therapy, and safe relationships, people can move towards secure attachment over time. You're not doomed to repeat old patterns. So, if you've ever asked, why do I keep ending up in the same kind of relationship? Start here. Attachment theory doesn't just explain your past, it gives you tools to change your future.
Love languages. You buy your partner a thoughtful gift. You expect them to light up with joy, but they barely react. Instead, they say they wish you'd just spend more time together. You're confused and maybe a little hurt. But the real issue, you're speaking different love languages. The concept of love languages comes from Dr. Gary Chapman, who identified 5 ways people give and receive love. Words of affirmation, verbal compliments, encouragement, I love you. Quality time, undivided attention, presence, shared moments. Receiving gifts, thoughtful tokens that show someone was thinking of you. Acts of service, doing helpful things like chores, favors, or problem solving. Physical touch, hugs, hand-holding, cuddling, intimacy. We often express love in the way we like to receive it, but that doesn't always land with someone else. You might be showering your partner with praise, words, while they're craving action, acts of service. Or maybe your friend keeps bringing you gifts, but all you really want is to hang out without phones in the way. When love languages don't match, relationships can feel frustrating, even when both people do care. But once you understand your own language and your partner's, everything changes. You stop guessing and start connecting. This concept isn't just for romance. It applies to friendships, family, even kids. Some people feel love through touch, others through time. The key is learning to listen in their language, not just yours. Want deeper love? Start asking, what makes you feel most appreciated? Then watch what happens when you speak their love language fluently. Because love isn't just about feeling, it's about understanding how that feeling is shared. Boundaries matter. You get a text at midnight again. Someone needs something. You're tired, drained, and didn't want to say yes, but you do anyway. Later, you feel resentful, maybe even used. That tension you feel, that's a missing boundary, and it matters more than you think. Boundaries are invisible lines that protect your time, energy, emotions, and personal space. They tell others where you end
and they begin. They're not walls to keep people out, they're gates that control what you allow in. And yet many of us were never taught to build them. Why? Because we were raised to be polite, to avoid conflict, to please others. Somewhere along the way, we began to equate kindness with self-erasure. But saying yes to everything is not love, it's fear in disguise. And eventually, it turns into exhaustion. Without boundaries, people may walk all over you, but it's not always intentional. If you don't express your limits, others won't know they exist. And if you constantly put others first, some will keep taking. Not because they're cruel, but because you've trained them to. Setting boundaries can feel scary at first. You'll worry about seeming selfish, cold, or rude. But a clear boundary, said kindly and firmly, is a gift to both people. It creates clarity. It teaches self-respect. It makes relationships honest. Start small. Say no without over-explaining. Let someone know when a joke went too far. Block off time for yourself and protect it like gold. You don't need to apologize for needing rest, space, or respect. Because boundaries aren't about control, they're about care. The more you protect your own space, the more you show others how to do the same. In that, we all grow stronger.
Trauma rewires behavior. You snap at someone for something small, or you shut down when conflict arises, or maybe you can't trust people, even when they've done nothing wrong. You don't understand why until you look deeper. Because behind many confusing adult behaviors lies something powerful: trauma. And trauma doesn't just wound, it rewires. Trauma isn't only about violence or tragedy. It can be subtle: emotional neglect, chronic stress, betrayal, or even growing up in unpredictable environments. Trauma is less about what happened and more about how it made your nervous system feel unsafe, overwhelmed, alone. When those feelings are intense or repeated, the brain adapts. Your body learns to protect you by going numb, staying hyper-alert, disconnecting from emotion, or building walls so no one gets close enough to hurt you again. These reactions are survival strategies. They're not flaws. They're evidence that your mind and body did their best to keep you safe. But over time, those adaptations can become barriers. The vigilance becomes anxiety. The emotional walls become isolation. The avoidance becomes self-sabotage. And often you don't even realize it's connected to the past. You just think, this is who I am. But it's not. It's what happened to you. And the good news is, what was learned can be unlearned. Healing starts with awareness. Notice your triggers. Trace the patterns. Ask where that fear or reaction might have first begun. You don't have to relive everything. You just have to stop ignoring it. Therapy, journaling, EMDR, bodywork, there are many parts. What matters is starting. And remember, trauma doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. The scars may not vanish, but they don't have to define you. Healing is slow, non-linear, and often painful. But every step forward is a rebellion against the past.
Empathy is not agreement. Let's say your friend makes a choice you completely disagree with. Maybe they quit a stable job to pursue art, or forgive someone you never would. You listen.
You understand their reasons. You even feel for them. But you still wouldn't have made the same decision. That's okay, because empathy does not mean agreement. We often confuse the two. We think that to show empathy, we must validate someone's every choice, or that to understand someone's feelings, we have to share their beliefs. But real empathy is deeper than that. It's the ability to sit with someone's experience even if you wouldn't live it yourself. Empathy says, I can see how that felt for you. It does not say, you're right and I do the same. That distinction is what makes empathy powerful. It builds bridges, not echo chambers. It allows for connection without compromising personal values. This skill is essential in relationships, families, even society. When we demand agreement before we offer compassion, we create division. We shut down conversations. We say, you must think like me to deserve my understanding. But empathy isn't about agreement, it's about humanity. You can disagree with someone's lifestyle and still care deeply about them. You can oppose someone's choices while still recognizing their pain, their hope, their fear. And you can absolutely love someone while telling them, I see you. I don't share your view, but I respect your right to feel it. Empathy requires emotional maturity. It takes effort to set aside your judgment long enough to hear someone's truth. But doing so doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. The world doesn't need more people who argue to be right. It needs more people who can say, I may not agree, but I understand. That's how we grow. That's how we stay connected, even when we see the world differently.
Grief has no schedule. Someone you love is gone. A pet, a parent, a partner, a friend. Maybe it's a breakup. Maybe it's someone who's still alive but no longer in your life. You try to move on because people tell you it's time. But inside, it still aches. One day you're fine, the next you're crying over a song. You wonder, shouldn't I be over this by now? But here's the truth. Grief has no schedule. Grief doesn't follow a calendar. It doesn't respond to deadlines. You can't plan it out or finish it like a task. Some wounds don't heal on command. They evolve, they shift shape. Some days the loss feels far away. Other days it hits you fresh, like it just happened. There are no right stages, no rules for how you're supposed to feel. One person might cry every day for months. Another might go numb for a year and break down later. Some throw themselves into work, others withdraw. All of it is valid. There is no wrong way to grieve. What often makes grief harder is the pressure to appear okay. Society is impatient with pain. People mean well, but say hurtful things like they're in a better place or time heals all wounds. These cliches don't comfort, they dismiss. Grief doesn't need a silver lining, it needs space. The truth is, love doesn't disappear when someone leaves, so why would the grief? Sometimes we grieve not just for what happened, but for what will never be. The missed birthdays, the imagined future, the unanswered questions. What helps? Allowing. Let the waves come. Speak their name, tell their story, cry when you need to, laugh when the memories bring joy. Grief is a form of love. It shows that something mattered deeply. You don't get over loss, you learn to carry it. Some days it's heavy, some days it's light, but always you keep walking. And that is the quiet, sacred work of healing.
Emotional regulation. Picture your mind like a ship on stormy waters. The waves are your emotions. Sometimes they rise gently, joy, excitement, curiosity. Other times they crash hard, anger, fear, sadness. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to steer the ship. That's what emotional regulation is all about. Emotional regulation is the ability to manage what you feel without denying it or letting it take over. It's not about bottling emotions or pretending everything's fine. It's about creating space between the feeling and the reaction. Imagine someone says something rude to you. Instantly, you feel your face heat up. Anger kicks in. Emotional regulation is what allows you to pause, breathe, and choose how to respond instead of exploding or shutting down. That pause is power. We aren't born knowing how to regulate emotions. Some of us grew up in environments where feelings weren't safe. Maybe you were told, "Don't cry," or that anger was bad. Over time, you might have learned to ignore your emotions or let them rule you. Either way, the key is learning that you are not your feelings. You experience them, but you can also guide them. There are tools that help. Deep breathing slows your body's panic response. Naming your emotion, "I feel anxious," makes it feel less overwhelming. Journaling, talking to someone you trust, even walking or stretching can help shift emotional energy in healthy ways. The goal isn't to never feel angry or sad, it's to feel fully and still choose wisely. Emotional regulation helps in arguments, work stress, parenting, and mental health. It creates space between stimulus and reaction, and in that space is freedom. Being in control of your emotions doesn't mean you're cold or robotic. It means you're steady, reliable, safe for yourself and others. Because when the storm hits, you can still hold the wheel.
People grow apart. Sometimes it just fades. A friend you used to call every day becomes a stranger. A partner, once inseparable, now feels distant. You scroll past their posts instead of texting back. There was no big fight, no betrayal, just silence growing in the spaces where laughter used to live. And you wonder, what happened? The answer may be simple and painful. People grow apart. We often expect relationships to last forever. We're taught that real love, true friendship, or family bonds should be unbreakable. But the truth is more complex. People change. You grow in new directions, learn new values, shift priorities. Sometimes those paths stay parallel. Other times they drift, slowly, silently, like tectonic plates. Growing apart doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean someone was toxic or ungrateful or bad. It just means change happened, and the relationship didn't change with it. That's normal. It's part of being human. It can still hurt, though. We mourn what used to be. We cling to shared memories, hoping to rekindle what was lost. But sometimes trying to force a connection that no longer fits only deepens the distance. The healthiest thing you can do? Let go with love. Honor the chapter you shared, but don't pressure it to continue if it no longer serves either of you. Relationships need energy, mutual care, and alignment. When those fade, it's okay to release. Of course, some relationships can be rekindled, but it takes honest effort on both sides, and the acceptance that the new version won't look exactly like the old one. Growing apart is a natural part of life. It creates space for new people, deeper self-discovery, and sometimes reconciliation down the line. What matters most is recognizing when to hold on and when to move forward with grace. Because not everyone is meant to stay forever. Some people are meant to be part of your journey, not the destination.
Projection. You meet someone new
and for some reason you instantly dislike them. Maybe they seem arrogant. Maybe something about their energy rubs you the wrong way. But later you realize they never actually did anything offensive. The issue wasn't them, it was you. This is what psychologists call projection. When we place our own feelings, insecurities, or fears onto others without realizing it. Projection is a defense mechanism. It protects us from facing uncomfortable truths about ourselves. If we don't want to admit we're jealous, we accuse others of being envious. If we feel insecure, we might call someone else attention-seeking. If we're angry but don't want to feel guilty about it, we may say they have a temper. In projection, the mind essentially says, "This feeling doesn't belong to me. It must be coming from you." And the wild part? We often believe it. We're not lying on purpose, we're avoiding emotional discomfort. This happens in relationships constantly. Someone afraid of abandonment might accuse their partner of pulling away, even if the partner is showing up. A person who cheats may become suspicious of you. A perfectionist may criticize others to avoid admitting their own self-doubt. It's not always obvious. Projection is subtle, but it causes real harm. It distorts communication, creates mistrust, and stops us from taking ownership of our emotions. How do you catch it? Pay attention to your reactions. If you feel unusually irritated or judgmental about someone, pause. Ask yourself, is this really about them or something I'm struggling with? It takes honesty and humility to recognize when we're projecting. But that's where real growth begins. Projection doesn't mean you're a bad person, just a human one. But if you can own your emotions instead of outsourcing them, you gain freedom. You stop blaming, start healing, and begin to see others and yourself more clearly. Because the clearer the mirror, the less we need to cast shadows.
Charisma is learnable. We often think charisma is something you're born with, like a magic sparkle certain people carry effortlessly. The confident speaker, the magnetic leader, the friend who can light up any room. But here's a secret. Charisma isn't a mysterious gift, it's a skill. And like all skills, it can be learned. Charisma comes from a mix of presence, warmth, and confidence. It's not about being loud or extroverted. Some of the most charismatic people speak softly, but with impact. They make you feel like you're the only person in the room. They listen, they smile, they radiate self-trust without arrogance. At its core, charisma is about energy, the kind you direct outward. Many people think confidence means looking impressive, but truly charismatic people aren't focused on themselves. They're focused on you. They make others feel seen, heard, and valued. There are things you can do to become more charismatic. Start with eye contact. Not staring, just being present. Practice active listening, actually hearing someone instead of waiting to talk. Use their name. Mirror their body language subtly. Speak with intention, not filler words. Pause before responding. Your posture matters too. Shoulders back, chin slightly lifted. Not stiff, just open. Own your space. Smile like you mean it. And when you speak, vary your tone. Enthusiasm and calmness both have their place. But the real magic, authenticity. People are drawn to those who are comfortable in their skin. You don't need to fake being someone you're not. You just need to show up with honesty and warmth. That's charisma, and it's within your reach. Compound interest. You save a little money, then a little more, It doesn't seem like much, but after a few years, boom, it grows faster than you expected. That's the quiet power of compound interest, one of the most important financial truths you can learn before you die. Here's how it works. When you invest money, it earns interest. But with compound interest, your interest earns interest too. It's not just linear growth, it's exponential. Over time, a small amount can snowball into something massive. Let's say you invest $1,000 at 10% interest per year. After the first year, you have $1,100. The next year, 10% of that. Now you're at $1,210. Then $1,331. Then $1,464. Over 10 years, that $1,000 becomes $2,593. Double your time, it grows tenfold. That's the magic of compounding. Albert Einstein is famously quoted as calling compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. And for good reason. It rewards patience like nothing else. The earlier you start, the more dramatic the effect. Time becomes your greatest ally. But this truth doesn't only apply to money. Compound interest works in habits, learning, relationships, even health. Read 10 pages a day, and in a year you've read over a dozen books. Walk 20 minutes daily, and you've moved hundreds of miles in a year. The small things, done consistently, build big results. The danger? We often want fast results, so we ignore small starts. We don't save $5 because it seems pointless. We don't stretch for 5 minutes because it won't matter. But those little efforts, stacked day after day, do matter. They become unstoppable. So whether you're growing your savings, your mind, or your body, play the long game. Be consistent. Start now, even if it's tiny. And protect the compounding process. Don't keep resetting the clock.
Lifestyle inflation. You finally get that raise, more money in your pocket. You breathe easier, maybe even celebrate a little. But within a few months, your expenses rise. You're buying nicer clothes, ordering more takeout, upgrading your gadgets. Oddly enough, you still feel like you're barely saving. That's not a budgeting mistake. That's lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation happens when your spending increases as your income increases. It sounds harmless. After all, what's the point of working hard if you can't enjoy the rewards? But the trap is subtle. When you raise your lifestyle with every paycheck boost, you never actually build wealth. You just stay on a more expensive treadmill. The problem isn't enjoying your success. The problem is letting your spending grow by default. A small raise turns into a slightly bigger apartment. A bigger paycheck becomes a new car. The fancier vacation, the gym membership, the higher-tier streaming service, it all adds up. Suddenly, you're earning more than ever and saving less than you did when you were broke. And worse, you become used to it. Your baseline shifts. What once felt like luxury now feels like necessity. That's where danger creeps in, because if your income drops or an emergency strikes, the bloated lifestyle becomes a burden, and it's very hard to scale back. The solution isn't to deprive yourself, it's to be intentional. When your income rises, ask yourself, what do I truly value? Not what looks impressive, what genuinely improves your life. Maybe that's quality groceries, a cleaner apartment, or investing in learning a new skill. But for every upgrade, consider saving or investing first. Let your future self benefit too. Lifestyle inflation feeds short-term satisfaction, but disciplined growth feeds freedom. You don't need to freeze your lifestyle forever. But by resisting the urge to inflate everything at once, you create room for long-term wealth, peace, and options.
Opportunity cost. Every choice you make comes with a hidden cost, not just in money, but in time, energy, and attention. When you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. That invisible trade-off is called opportunity cost, and understanding it is one of the smartest things you can do in life. Let's say you spend 2 hours watching TV. You enjoyed it, but what did it cost you? 2 hours you could have spent reading, exercising, building a side hustle, or just resting deeply. That lost alternative is your opportunity cost, not what you paid, but what you gave up. Most of us ignore opportunity cost because it's not obvious. If you buy a $1,000 phone, the money is gone, that's clear. But what's less visible is that you could also have invested that money or taken a weekend trip or paid off debt. In economics, this concept shapes everything, but in daily life, we forget how powerful it is. The truth is, time and attention are limited. You can't do everything, so every yes is a no to something else. That doesn't mean you must optimize every minute, it just means be conscious. Before committing, ask, what am I trading for this? Is it worth it? Opportunity cost also applies to people. Staying in the wrong relationship costs you the chance to find one that fits. Working a job you hate may cost you the chance to build something you love. Comfort can cost you growth. Safety can cost you adventure. Every decision echoes. But this isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Once you start thinking in terms of opportunity cost, your decisions get sharper. You stop chasing busy and start prioritizing value. You realize that sometimes saying no to good things is what makes room for great things. So next time you face a choice, pause. Don't just ask, what do I gain? Ask, what do I lose if I choose this instead of something else? Because in the end, what you choose and what you don't defines the path you walk. Time is more valuable than money. Money can be lost, wasted, even stolen, but it can always be earned back. Time, on the other hand, once it's gone forever. That's why one of life's deepest truths is this: time is more valuable than money. We often treat time like it's unlimited. We scroll for hours, procrastinate for days, and tell ourselves we'll get to it later. But later isn't promised. Every second you spend is a second you'll never get back. That sounds harsh, but it's also incredibly empowering, because it means the most valuable thing you own is your attention. People spend their lives chasing money, only to realize they spent their best years sacrificing the very thing they wanted money for: freedom, peace, time with loved ones, health. And when they finally slow down, they wonder where the time went. This doesn't mean money doesn't matter, it does. But the point of money is to buy back your time, not trade your entire life for more of it. The goal is freedom, not just wealth. So, how do you live like time matters more? Start by protecting it. Treat your time as you would a precious account. Be careful who gets to withdraw from it. Say no to things that don't serve you. Limit distractions. Focus on high-value activities, the things that grow you, nourish you, or bring lasting joy. Use money to buy back your time when you can. Hire help. Automate tasks. Cut out low-return habits. Invest in tools or education that make your life smoother. Don't hoard your best hours. Use them well. In the end, your minutes are your real currency. How you spend them builds your life. And when you look back, it won't be your bank balance that defines your legacy. It'll be how you spent your time.
Multiple streams of income. Imagine standing on a single wooden plank, suspended high above water. If that one plank breaks, you fall. Now imagine standing on 5 planks. If one breaks, you wobble, but you're still supported. That's the idea behind multiple streams of income, and it can change your financial life. Most people rely on one source of income, a job. It feels safe until it's not. Companies downsize, industries shift, illness, layoffs, or economic downturns can wipe out that one stream, and suddenly you're stuck with no backup. But when you build multiple streams of income, you're creating financial stability. You're not just earning, you're protecting your future. Income streams can take many forms. The most common ones include earned income, your job or freelance work; business income, money from running your own business or side hustle; investment income, dividends, stock profits, or real estate returns; passive income, royalties, affiliate earnings, online courses, rental income; interest income, earnings from savings, bonds, or peer-to-peer lending. You don't need to start with 5. Start with one extra. Maybe you write, teach, sell a digital product, rent out a room, create content, learn to invest. Over time, those little trickles can become powerful rivers, and some may grow while you sleep. Yes, it takes time and effort, but every hour you put into a side income now buys you freedom later. You reduce your dependence on any single paycheck. You gain flexibility, security, and options. And maybe one day you stop working for money and let your money work for you. Because true wealth isn't just how much you earn, it's how many doors you've opened and how many you can walk through when the world changes.
Most millionaires aren't flashy. When we think of millionaires, we picture sports cars, designer clothes, yachts, and giant houses. Social media doesn't help. It floods us with flashy displays of wealth. But here's a quiet truth that most people miss. Most real millionaires aren't flashy at all. In fact, they're often the opposite. They drive modest cars, live in average neighborhoods, wear simple clothes, and eat at regular places. Why? Because real wealth isn't about showing off. It's about security, freedom, options. This idea was documented in the book The Millionaire Next Door. Researchers studied thousands of wealthy people and discovered a surprising pattern. Most of them didn't inherit riches. They earned it through steady income, discipline, smart investing, and, most importantly, living below their means. They avoided lifestyle inflation. They saved and invested early. They didn't chase trends or status symbols. Instead of trying to look rich, they focused on becoming rich and staying that way. The flashy lifestyle many associate with wealth often belongs to people who are living paycheck to paycheck, but with expensive tastes. They finance luxury to impress others, not because they're truly wealthy. It's a trap that looks glamorous from the outside, but can leave people stressed and broke behind the scenes. The real millionaires understand value. They're not stingy, they just choose wisely. They'd rather have peace of mind than impress strangers. They know that compound interest, time, and patience are more powerful than any flashy watch or sports car. So, if your goal is real wealth, learn to tune out the noise. You don't have to dress rich to be rich. In fact, the most powerful financial moves are often invisible.
Cost versus value. You see 2 pairs of shoes. One costs $40 and looks trendy. The other costs $120, feels sturdy, and is built to last. Most people grab the cheaper one. It's a better deal, right? But a month later, the cheap pair breaks. You buy another one, then another. Over time, you've spent more than the expensive pair and gotten less comfort. That's the lesson of cost versus value. Cost is the price you pay up front.
Value is what you get in return, over time, and they're not always the same. We're conditioned to chase deals, discounts, and low prices, but cheaper isn't always smarter. In many cases, the lowest cost comes with hidden expenses, poor quality, wasted time, stress, or replacements. Meanwhile, something that seems expensive may actually save you money, time, or effort in the long run. This principle applies to more than just shopping. Think about your time. You could spend hours doing something for free, or pay someone to do it faster and better. In that case, you're buying back your time, which may be far more valuable than the money is spent. Or take education. A free tutorial might help, but a paid course could fast-track your growth, open doors, or earn you more income down the line. The cost is higher, but the value is deeper. Knowing the difference between cost and value helps you make wise decisions. Ask, will this last? Will this make my life easier or better? Is this a one-time thrill or long-term gain? What's the real return here? Spending isn't the enemy, mindless spending is. The goal isn't to be cheap, it's to be intentional. Because when you start focusing on value instead of price, you stop buying things that impress and start investing in things that matter. Budgeting is awareness, not restriction. People often treat budgeting like a punishment, like it's some sort of diet for your bank account. You hear the word and immediately think of sacrifice, cutting joy, saying no to fun. But the truth is, budgeting isn't about restriction. It's about awareness. It's about knowing where your money is going and choosing if that's where you want it to go. Imagine trying to fill a leaky bucket. No matter how much water you pour in, it always feels empty. That's what life without a budget feels like. You earn, you spend, and by the end of the month, you're left wondering, where did it all go? A budget helps you find the leaks and decide whether to patch them or leave them open. It doesn't mean you can't spend on what you love. In fact, budgeting helps you spend more on what matters because you're not accidentally throwing money at things you barely notice or care about. A morning coffee isn't the enemy. Random subscriptions you forgot you had, those might be. A good budget is not rigid. It shifts with your needs. It includes space for joy, generosity, and mistakes. It's not built to shame you, it's built to support you. When you budget, you're not telling your money no, you're telling it where to go. Most people are afraid of budgets because they fear facing the truth. But awareness is freedom. When you know your numbers, you feel more in control. You make decisions with confidence instead of guessing in the dark. You stop feeling guilty every time you buy something small because you know it fits. A budget doesn't shrink your life. It sharpens it. It turns chaos into clarity. And that's where peace begins. The 80-20 rule, Pareto principle. Not all effort is equal. That's the core of the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. It's the idea that 80% of results often come from just 20% of the work. A small slice of input creates most of the outcome. This principle shows up everywhere. A few key clients bring in most of a business's revenue. A handful of habits account for the bulk of someone's progress. In your wardrobe, you probably wear the same 20% of clothes 80% of the time. It's not just a quirky pattern, it's a powerful lens for how the world works. Understanding this rule helps you focus. If you're working non-stop but not seeing results, it might be because you're pouring energy into the wrong areas. Instead of doing everything, ask, what's the high-impact 20% here? What are the things that, if done well, make the biggest difference? This doesn't mean you ignore the rest. It means you stop spreading yourself thin. You double down on what works. You let go of busy work that feels productive, but isn't really moving the needle. You work smarter, not just longer. The 80-20 rule is also a wake-up call when it comes to time and stress. Often, a small number of tasks or people cause the majority of your frustration. Identifying and adjusting just that 20% can drastically improve your quality of life. It's not about being perfect. It's about being efficient with your time, energy, and focus. Once you see where the leverage is, everything becomes clearer. You stop trying to do it all and start doing what truly matters.
Financial literacy is survival. If you can't read, you're vulnerable to being misled. If you can't swim, you're vulnerable around deep water. And if you don't understand money, how it works, how it flows, how it grows, you are vulnerable in modern life. Financial literacy isn't a luxury, it's survival. Too often, schools teach complex algebra and history timelines, but never explain credit scores, interest rates, taxes, or how debt works. So many adults enter the real world knowing how to pass exams, but not how to manage a paycheck, avoid a financial trap, or build a stable future. The truth is, money affects almost everything. Where you live, how you eat, whether you can afford healthcare, whether you can say yes to an opportunity or walk away from a toxic job or relationship. Without financial knowledge, your options shrink. You get stuck in cycles you don't understand and you don't know how to get out. But the good news is, money is learnable. You can teach yourself how to budget, how to save, how to invest, how to read a contract, how to ask questions. It doesn't require a degree. It requires curiosity and the will to take control. And no, financial literacy isn't just about getting rich. It's about having choices. It's about living with less fear. It's about making informed decisions so that when life throws its curveballs, and it always does, you're not helpless. You're ready. Understanding money doesn't make you greedy. It makes you prepared. And in a world where financial systems are everywhere, in rent, jobs, education, medicine, even love, being unprepared is dangerous. So don't wait until it's too late. Start learning now. Even one lesson can change your future. And when you understand how to use money instead of being used by it, you move from surviving to actually living.
Circadian rhythm. Your body has a clock, and it's ticking even when you don't notice. This inner timekeeper is called the circadian rhythm, and it governs more than just sleep. It affects your energy, mood, focus, digestion, hormone levels, and even how well you heal. When it's in sync, life feels smoother. When it's off, everything can feel harder. The circadian rhythm runs on a roughly 24-hour cycle, shaped by light and darkness. In the morning, when sunlight hits your eyes, your body gets a signal. Wake up, produce energy, stay alert. At night, when darkness falls, it shifts gears. Slow down, release melatonin, prepare for rest. But here's the problem. Modern life constantly fights this rhythm. Screens blast blue light deep into the night. Alarms drag us out of bed before we're ready. Caffeine pushes us past natural energy slumps. Shift work, jet lag, all-nighters, they throw our rhythm out of sync. And when that happens, we don't just feel tired, we get anxious, irritable, unfocused, or even sick. Living against your rhythm isn't just inconvenient, it's harmful over time. Studies have linked circadian disruption to obesity, diabetes, depression, and even heart disease. Your body wants patterns. It craves rhythm. So how do you get back in sync? First, anchor your wake-up time, even on weekends. Then get sunlight within the first hour of waking. It resets your internal clock. At night, dim the lights, avoid screens close to bedtime, and give your brain the darkness it needs to wind down. Eating meals at consistent times also helps. So does exercising during the day rather than late at night. Think of your body like an orchestra. Each habit is an instrument. When they play together, the result is harmony. When they clash, you feel it. Most people try to fix their problems with motivation or medication, but often the first step is simply realigning with the natural rhythm you were built to follow. Your body already knows what to do. You just have to stop fighting the clock it runs on.
Sleep is foundational. We treat sleep like an afterthought. We push it aside for deadlines, entertainment, or hustle. I'll sleep when I'm dead, some say, as if rest is a weakness, a luxury. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sleep isn't optional. It's foundational. Every aspect of your health, physical, mental, emotional, rests on whether or not you get enough of it. Without good sleep, your brain doesn't function properly. Memory declines. Focus scatters. Emotions become harder to control. Even your immune system suffers. One bad night can feel like mental fog. Multiple bad nights can feel like you're unraveling from the inside out. Sleep isn't just about resting, it's about repairing. During deep sleep, your body heals tissue, strengthens your heart, balances your hormones, and clears toxic waste from your brain. REM sleep, when you dream, helps you process emotions and consolidate memories. It's like nighttime therapy without the price tag. And no, you can't cheat the system. You can't function long-term on 4 or 5 hours. You can't catch up on weekends and expect your body to thank you. Chronic sleep debt builds up slowly, like silent erosion. You may not feel it at first, but it's affecting your weight, your blood pressure, your stress levels, even your risk of disease. Fixing sleep starts with consistency. Go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. Create a wind-down routine. Avoid screens, caffeine, and bright lights at night. Make your bedroom dark, cool, and quiet. Protect your sleep like it's sacred, because it is. In a world that glorifies doing more, sleeping well is an act of rebellion and self-respect. Because without sleep, you're not just tired, you're living on a shaky foundation, and eventually, everything else starts to crack.
Ultradian rhythm. You've heard of the circadian rhythm, your body's 24-hour clock, but few people know about its faster cousin, the ultradian rhythm. It's shorter, faster, and just as important. It's the pattern your body follows within each day, especially when it comes to focus, energy, and recovery. Here's how it works. Throughout the day, your brain and body go through cycles of about 90 to 120 minutes. During each cycle, your alertness rises, peaks, and then dips. After that dip, you need a brief break, usually 10 to 20 minutes, to recover. Then the cycle starts again. This pattern repeats itself multiple times a day. Why does this matter? Because most of us push through those dips. You know the feeling, you're working hard, then suddenly you can't concentrate. Your eyes blur, your energy crashes, your creativity vanishes. That's not a lack of discipline, it's your ultradian rhythm telling you it's time to rest. But instead of listening, we push harder, we grab caffeine, we scroll on our phones, we ignore the need to pause. And slowly, our output drops. We feel burnt out, not because we worked too long, but because we never truly recovered. The ultradian rhythm teaches us that high performance isn't about non-stop hustle. It's about working with your body's waves. Work intensely for 90 minutes, then break. Walk, breathe, stretch, close your eyes, then return. You'll focus faster, think clearer, and feel better. This rhythm also affects your emotions, digestion, and physical stamina. It's like your body has a built-in battery, but you're only charged if you respect the cycle. We're not machines, we're living systems with natural pulses of energy and recovery. The people who achieve more aren't always the ones who push hardest. They're often the ones who recover best. Learning to ride the wave of your ultradian rhythm is one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to boost productivity, reduce burnout, and stay sharp throughout the day. Not by doing more, but by knowing when to pause.
Nutrition does not equal calories. You see it everywhere. Calorie counts on menus, apps that track every bite, headlines about how many calories you should eat to lose weight. It makes you think that food is just numbers, 200 here, 500 there. But here's the truth most people miss. Nutrition is not the same as calories. Calories measure energy. That's it. They tell you how much fuel food provides, not what kind of fuel. You could eat 2,000 calories of processed snacks or 2,000 calories of whole foods. Same number, completely different effect on your body. Your body isn't just a machine burning fuel. It's a living, complex system that builds, heals, and operates based on what you feed it. Food is information. The vitamins, minerals, fats, proteins, and fiber in your meals act like signals, telling your cells how to perform, your brain how to function, and your immune system how to defend you. Eat foods high in refined sugar, and your energy spikes, then crashes. You feel foggy, irritable, tired. Eat foods rich in fiber, healthy fats, and nutrients, and you feel more stable, clear-headed, energized. That's not about calories, that's about quality. Even weight gain or loss isn't just calories in versus calories out. Hormones, gut health, sleep, stress, all of these play a role. Food can trigger those systems. It's not just what you eat, it's how your body reacts to it. So while counting calories can be a tool, don't let it blind you to what really matters. Read ingredient labels, not just calorie labels. Ask, will this nourish me? Not just, will this keep me under my number? Your body deserves more than math. It deserves real food, real care, and a mindset that sees nutrition as a relationship, not a restriction. When you stop obsessing over how much you're eating and start caring about what you're eating, that's when health begins to take root.
Stress is physical. Most people think stress is just mental, a feeling, a thought, a mood. But stress doesn't just exist in your head, it lives in your body. It pumps hormones into your bloodstream, tightens your muscles, quickens your heart. Stress is physical. And if you ignore that, you're only treating half the problem. When you feel stress, whether from an argument, a deadline, or a deep fear, your nervous system reacts as if you're in danger. Adrenaline surges, cortisol rises, your body prepares to fight or flee. This response is ancient. It kept your ancestors alive when lions were chasing them. But today, the lion is your inbox, your bills, your unresolved emotions. And because we rarely physically respond to modern stress, we don't run, yell, or leap into action, all that activation stays trapped in the body. It lingers as tension in the shoulders, shallow breathing, tight jaws, racing thoughts. Over time, This trapped stress can lead to high blood pressure, digestive issues, insomnia, and even chronic pain. The solution isn't just thinking positive thoughts or trying to calm down. It's moving the stress through the body, because that's where it lives. Walk, dance, shake, stretch, breathe deeply and slowly. Cry if you need to, scream into a pillow, journal fast and furious. These actions aren't silly, they're necessary. They give your nervous system an exit route. They complete the stress cycle that your body never got to finish. We live in a world that triggers stress constantly, but rarely teaches us how to release it. So we carry it like invisible weight, and it builds up until our bodies scream for help. If you've been feeling heavy, tense, exhausted, don't just ask what's wrong with your mind. Ask what your body is holding on to and how you can help it let go. Because you can't think your way out of stress that lives in your bones.
Gut-brain axis. You've heard trust your gut, but science now shows your gut is doing more than just whispering feelings. It's talking to your brain directly, constantly, and with real power. This two-way communication is known as the gut-brain axis, and it's one of the most important discoveries in modern health. Inside your gut are trillions of microbes, bacteria, fungi, and viruses that make up your microbiome. Far from being dangerous, many of these tiny organisms are essential. They help digest food, produce vitamins, regulate immune function, and influence your mood, focus, and mental health. Yes, what happens in your gut can change how you think and feel. That's not hype, that's real. Here's how it works. Your gut and brain are connected through a nerve highway called the vagus nerve. When your gut is inflamed, imbalanced, or filled with harmful bacteria, it sends distress signals to your brain. The result? Anxiety, depression, brain fog, irritability. Conversely, a balanced gut supports clear thinking, better sleep, and emotional stability. Ever had butterflies in your stomach when nervous, or lost your appetite when sad? That's the gut-brain axis at work, and it's not just metaphorical. What you eat plays a big role. Fiber-rich foods, fermented foods like yogurt, kimchi, or kefir feed your good bacteria. Processed foods, excess sugar, and antibiotics can throw your gut out of balance. Even stress affects your digestion, creating a loop between how you feel and how your gut reacts. The gut also produces a large portion of serotonin, the feel-good chemical linked to mood. That means mental wellness isn't just about brain chemistry, it's also about gut chemistry. So if your emotions feel unstable, your sleep is off, or your focus has disappeared, don't only look at your thoughts. Look at your digestion, how you eat, how your stomach feels after meals. It's all part of the same ecosystem. You're not just feeding your body, you're feeding your mind too.
First aid basics save lives. It's just a cut, just a fall, just a choking incident, until it isn't. Emergencies don't knock before entering. They happen fast, and when they do, you don't have time to Google. That's why knowing basic first aid isn't a nice-to-have skill. It's a life skill. In some cases, it's the difference between help arriving and arriving too late. You don't have to be a doctor to make a difference. You just need the basics. how to stop bleeding, how to treat a burn, how to recognize a heart attack or stroke, how to perform CPR, how to help someone who's choking or having a seizure. These are not rare textbook emergencies. They happen every day in homes, schools, workplaces, streets. Think about how much time people spend learning to drive or memorize facts for school exams. Yet we walk through life completely unprepared to respond when someone collapses next to us. That gap can cost lives, sometimes the lives of people we love. And the beauty of first aid? It's learnable in hours. You can take a basic course online or in person. You can practice. You can build a simple kit. You don't need a white coat or years of training, just willingness, just awareness, just a decision that says, if something happens, I won't freeze. I'll know what to do. Some skills sit on a resume. Others sit quietly in your pocket until the moment they matter most. First aid belongs in that second category. You may go your whole life never needing it, but if that moment comes, and it will for someone, you won't panic. You'll step in, and you might just be the reason a story continues instead of ending.
Sunlight is medicine. We live in boxes, homes, offices, cars, screens. Day after day, we move from one artificial space to another, always lit by flickering bulbs and glowing screens. What we often forget is that our bodies were designed to respond to the sun, not just tolerate it, need it. Because sunlight isn't just warm and beautiful, sunlight is medicine. When sunlight touches your skin, your body produces vitamin D, a nutrient essential for bone health, immune function, and mental well-being. Without enough sunlight, vitamin D levels drop, which can lead to fatigue, low mood, weaker immunity, and even depression. That's why people in dark, northern climates often feel sluggish in the winter. It's not in their heads, it's in their cells. But sunlight does more than create vitamins. Morning light helps set your circadian rhythm, telling your brain that it's time to wake up, focus, and produce serotonin, a mood-boosting chemical. That same cycle leads to better sleep at night, because your internal clock is finally aligned with nature again. Even just 10 to 20 minutes of real daylight can help. Walk outside without sunglasses for a while. Feel it on your skin. Let your eyes register the brightness. You don't need to sunbathe or get burned. You just need exposure. We've grown afraid of the sun because of skin cancer risks, and yes, caution is important, but fear shouldn't lead to total avoidance. Like all things, the key is balance. Protection matters. Overexposure harms, but underexposure can also leave you depleted, dimmed, dulled. So step outside. Take breaks in natural light. Make time to reconnect with the sky. Even on cloudy days, the light matters more than you realize. Because what powers the plants, the seasons, and the earth itself still powers you too.
Movement is non-negotiable. You don't need to be a runner. You don't have to love gyms or post workouts on social media. But one truth remains, no matter who you are, your body was built to move, not just occasionally, not just when it's convenient, but regularly. Movement is not optional, it's non-negotiable. For most of human history, movement was survival. We hunted, gathered, built, carried. Now we sit for hours, sometimes days, slouched in chairs, eyes glued to screens, legs still. Modern comfort is incredible, but it comes with a price. Stiffness, inflammation, pain, poor posture, anxiety, fatigue. And slowly, our bodies forget how to live in themselves. This isn't about chasing a perfect body. It's about function, vitality, energy, clarity. Movement improves circulation, digestion, and brain health. It boosts mood by releasing endorphins. It sharpens focus. It prevents injury. It even slows aging. And it doesn't have to be extreme. You don't need an intense program or expensive gear. You just need to move, stretch, walk, dance, climb stairs, carry groceries with awareness. It all counts. What matters is consistency, not intensity. The hardest part? Starting, especially when you're tired, overwhelmed, or in pain. But motion, even gentle motion, creates momentum. You walk for 5 minutes and somehow 10 pass. You stretch one arm and your whole body thanks you. Slowly, movement stops being a chore. It becomes relief. If you're struggling with your emotions, focus, or health, ask yourself a simple question. Have I moved today? It doesn't fix everything, but it opens the door. Because you don't need to be an athlete to reclaim your strength. You just need to stop being still and start honoring the one thing your body never stopped asking for.
Pain is not weakness. Pain gets a bad reputation. From childhood, we're taught to avoid it, hide it, or push through it. We hear things like, "Don't cry, be strong," or "tough it out." And somewhere along the way, we start believing that pain is weakness, that if something hurts, something must be wrong with us. But that belief couldn't be further from the truth. Pain is not weakness. It's feedback. It's the body and mind's way of alerting you that something needs attention, not punishment. When you touch a hot stove, the pain teaches you to pull away. When you strain a muscle, pain tells you to stop before you tear it further. Pain isn't there to make you suffer. It's there to protect you. The same is true emotionally. When we experience heartbreak, grief, rejection, or fear, those feelings hurt. But they don't mean we're broken or weak. They mean we're alive and connected, capable of love, loss, and deep feeling. Emotional pain is evidence that something mattered. Modern culture often glorifies pushing past pain. No days off. Pain is gain. Just smile through it. But pain that's ignored or buried doesn't disappear. It mutates. It grows into chronic stress, illness, burnout, bitterness. True strength isn't in pretending pain doesn't exist. It's in knowing when to rest, reflect, and repair. Acknowledging pain takes courage. Speaking it out loud takes strength. Choosing to heal takes even more. So, the next time you feel pain in your back, your heart, or your thoughts, don't rush to silence it. Pause. Listen. Ask what it's trying to show you. Maybe it's telling you to slow down. Maybe it's asking you to let go. Maybe it's just reminding you that you're still human. And there's no weakness in that.
You will die. It's the one truth we all share, but rarely talk about. You will die. Everyone you know, everyone you've ever loved, and you yourself. One day, it all ends. This sounds grim, even terrifying, but if you truly let this truth sink in, it becomes one of the most freeing realizations you can have. We live like we're invincible. We delay joy. We postpone dreams. We waste days in boredom or bitterness, convinced we'll always have more time. But we won't. The clock is ticking, and not in a metaphorical, poetic way, in a real, biological way. Every minute gone is a minute you'll never see again. And that's exactly why this truth matters. Knowing you will die doesn't make life darker, it makes it sharper, clearer. You stop sweating the small stuff when you realize how small it really is. You stop saying someday and start saying, why not now? You become more intentional with how you spend your time and who you spend it with. Death isn't just the end, it's the boundary that gives meaning to everything inside it. Imagine a song that never ends, a painting that stretches forever, a story with no final chapter. Without limits, even beauty loses form. Death gives shape to life. You don't need to obsess over it. You don't need to fear it. You just need to remember it. Not in a morbid way, in a motivating one. Because once you truly accept that this ride will end, you start paying attention to the view. You cherish more. You forgive quicker. You speak truer. And maybe, just maybe, you start living with the urgency of someone who knows the value of now. You will die. And that's exactly why your time is priceless.
Change is the only constant. There's one rule that life never breaks. Everything changes. Your body changes. Your beliefs change. People come and go, circumstances shift. What felt stable yesterday might disappear tomorrow. The one thing you can count on over and over again is that nothing stays the same. For some, that thought is terrifying. Change often brings uncertainty, discomfort, even pain. We love familiarity. We cling to routines, relationships, jobs, identities, anything that gives us the illusion of control. But life doesn't ask for permission. It grows, it breaks, it transforms with or without your consent. And yet within that chaos is a strange kind of wisdom. Change isn't your enemy, it's your greatest teacher. Think about the turning points in your life. They were likely sparked by change. A breakup that broke your heart but set you free. A job loss that left you scared but forced you into something better. A move, a loss, a challenge, something that cracked the shell you were living in and revealed a stronger version underneath. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in motion. And motion means change. The people who thrive aren't the ones who avoid change. They're the ones who adapt, who stay flexible, who know how to let go and begin again, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Accepting change doesn't mean you stop grieving the old. It means you learn to welcome the new, even when it arrives wrapped in uncertainty. So when the next wave of change hits, and it will, try not to resist it. Breathe. Listen. Ask what it's here to show you. You might not understand it right away. That's okay. Most of life makes sense in hindsight, not in real time. But if you let it, change won't just disrupt you, it will reshape you into someone more open, more aware, more alive than you were before.
You are not your thoughts. The voice in your head never stops talking. It plans, judges, imagines, criticizes, fears. It tells stories about who you are, what people think of you, what might go wrong. It repeats old worries. It jumps into the future. It replays the past. Sometimes that voice gets so loud, so constant, you start to believe it is you. But here's the truth that can change your life. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts happen to you like weather. They come and go. Some are helpful, some are harmful. Some are completely random. The mind creates them based on memory, emotion, biology, even the food you ate. And just because a thought appears doesn't mean it's true, useful, or worth listening to. You don't choose most of your thoughts, they just rise up. You think, I'm not good enough, or they don't like me, or what if I fail? And it feels like reality. But it's not reality, it's just a mental reflex. The thought is a visitor, not a fact. Once you understand that, you get distance. You can observe your thoughts instead of obeying them. You stop getting dragged around by every passing worry or negative loop. You create space, and in that space, you can decide how to respond. Mindfulness practices, meditation, even journaling, these aren't spiritual fluff. They are tools to help you step back from the noise in your head, to watch the thought, name it, let it pass. You start saying, I'm having the thought that I'm failing, instead of I'm failing. That shift matters. You are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. So the next time your thoughts turn dark, anxious, or cruel, pause. Don't fight them. Don't believe them. Just notice them. Let them drift by. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them.
No one really knows what they're doing. Look around and it might seem like everyone has it figured out. They've got careers, routines, polished social media, confident voices. It's easy to feel behind, like you missed the class on how to be an adult and everyone else passed the exam. But the secret no one says out loud, no one really knows what they're doing. Not entirely, not all the time. People improvise, guess, try, fail, try again. Behind every success story is confusion, fear, second-guessing, and a lot of winging it. The people who look confident are often just better at hiding their uncertainty. Or they've simply learned that uncertainty is part of the process. This doesn't mean people don't work hard, learn skills, or become competent. They do. But even experts in their field run into problems they don't have answers for. Even parents, leaders, creators, they're all doing their best with incomplete information and real human doubts. The world is complex. Life is unpredictable. Every stage, whether you're 18 or 58, brings new things to figure out. There's no final point where someone hands you a map and says, here's how to do everything right. It doesn't exist. Once you accept that, you stop comparing your insides to everyone else's outsides. You stop waiting to feel ready or qualified before taking a risk. You realize that courage isn't about being sure. It's about acting even when you're not. Some people get ahead not because they're smarter, but because they're more willing to try without knowing everything first. They ask questions. They stumble publicly. They start anyway. So, don't let the illusion of certainty stop you. Nobody has it all figured out, and that's not failure, that's being human. We're all just making it up as we go.
Happiness is fleeting. Purpose lasts. Everyone wants to be happy. It's in our slogans, our self-help books, our dreams. But happiness is slippery. It comes and goes. A good meal, a kind word,
a sunny day. It brings joy, but then it fades. That's the nature of happiness. It's a feeling, not a foundation. And if you chase it constantly, you'll always feel like you're missing something. Because happiness isn't meant to stay. It's a visitor, not a permanent resident. You can't hold it in your hand or bottle it up. Trying to stay happy all the time will leave you frustrated, confused, even ashamed, as if you're doing something wrong every time life feels hard. But there's something deeper than happiness: purpose. Purpose is what makes you get up even when you're tired. It's what keeps you moving when happiness disappears. It's the meaning behind your effort, the reason your actions matter, even when they're difficult. Purpose doesn't always feel good in the moment. Raising a child, building a career, creating something from nothing, these things are exhausting. They involve setbacks, conflict, self-doubt. But they also create pride, growth, impact. They make you feel alive in a way that happiness alone never can. Purpose gives pain context. It gives routine weight. It turns even suffering into something you can endure because it leads somewhere. You don't have to find your purpose in one grand moment. It might show up slowly, through what you care about, what energizes you, what you'd fight for even if no one noticed. And once you build your life around purpose, not just happiness, something shifts. You become more stable, more fulfilled, more real. You welcome happiness when it comes, but you're not lost when it leaves.
Comparison is poison. At first, comparison seems harmless. You scroll past someone's perfect vacation, sculpted body, or career milestone and think, wow, they're doing great. But then it turns. Suddenly, your own life feels smaller. Your progress feels slow. You feel behind, less attractive, less successful, like you've failed without even knowing the rules of the game. That's the trap. Comparison is poison. We've been comparing ourselves to others forever. It's human nature. But in today's world, with social media constantly showing us highlight reels of everyone's best moments, comparison has become constant. And it's toxic. What you forget when you compare is context. You're looking at someone's best 5 seconds, the filtered, cropped, edited version of their life, and holding it up against your entire existence, including your messes, insecurities, and silent battles. Of course, it doesn't match. What's more, you don't see the sacrifices behind their success, the loneliness behind their beauty, the pressure behind their smile, the cracks under the surface. You're comparing your inner world to their outer mask. Comparison steals joy, confidence, and motivation. It distracts you from your own growth. You start measuring your value not by your effort or character, but by how closely you resemble someone else's path. But your path is yours for a reason. Your timing, your story, your pace. The people you admire aren't better than you, they're just different. And often, they're struggling with the same doubts about someone else. You'll never find peace by trying to match someone else's life. But you can find it by focusing on your own. Celebrate others, yes, but don't lose yourself in the process. Because the only life you're supposed to be living is your own.
Nature doesn't care about fair. We grow up hearing that things should be fair, that good people are rewarded, bad ones punished, and everything balances out in the end. It's a comforting idea,
But it's not how the world really works. Nature doesn't care about fair. It just is. A tree doesn't care if the bird that nests in it is kind or cruel. A virus doesn't skip someone because they've been through enough. Earthquakes, storms, disease, accidents, they strike without concern for justice or merit. Nature follows patterns, not morality. Physics, biology, chemistry. These laws don't reward virtue or punish evil. They simply operate. That might sound bleak, but it's actually freeing, because once you let go of the illusion that life is supposed to be fair, you stop feeling personally attacked when unfair things happen. You stop shouting, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" Unfair things will happen. Hard work won't always pay off. Cruel people may succeed. Good people may suffer. But your power lies not in expecting fairness. It lies in how you respond to unfairness, with resilience, with awareness, with action, even when the world doesn't owe you anything. That doesn't mean you shouldn't fight for justice. We need fairness in society, in laws, systems, and relationships. But that fight starts by understanding the playing field isn't naturally balanced. We create fairness through human effort, not through waiting for the universe to handle it for us. Accepting that nature is indifferent doesn't mean giving up. It means growing up. It means living wisely in a world that doesn't always play by your rules, and finding strength not from fairness, but from clarity.
You can't control others, only yourself. It's one of the hardest lessons to learn. You can't control other people. Not their thoughts, not their emotions, not their choices, not even how they see you. And the more you try, the more frustrated, exhausted, and resentful you become. We want people to understand us, to treat us better, to change. We use logic, guilt, manipulation, kindness, even silence, hoping to steer their behavior. But the truth is, you don't hold the steering wheel of someone else's mind. No amount of convincing or worrying will change a person who doesn't want to change. This can be heartbreaking, especially when it's someone close, a parent, partner, friend, or even a child. You see how their actions hurt them or you. You know what would help, but they won't listen. Or worse, they say they will and don't. So what can you do? You can control how you respond. You can set boundaries. You can walk away from what hurts you. You can choose your words, your time, your values, your energy. You can lead by example, not in hopes of changing them, but because it's who you are. You can also control how much space they occupy in your head. Ruminating on other people's behavior is like replaying a scene hoping the ending will change. It won't. Peace comes from release, not control. Ironically, the more you focus on controlling yourself, the more influence you gain. People may notice your strength, your calm, your clarity, and they may change because they choose to. Or they won't, and that's still okay. Freedom isn't getting others to act the way you want. It's no longer needing them to.
Your beliefs aren't you. We all carry beliefs, ideas about the world, about people, about ourselves. These beliefs feel like they are us. They feel permanent, sacred, and deeply personal. But here's the truth. Your beliefs are not you. They are things you've picked up from your parents, your culture, your school, your experiences. They are lenses, not identities. When you realize this, something amazing happens. You start to see that beliefs can change, and that changing them doesn't mean betraying yourself. It means growing.
Think of a belief like a backpack. You carry it because at some point it helped. Maybe it kept you safe. Maybe it gave you answers. But if you never stop to check what's inside, you'll carry old, heavy, even harmful things for years without question. Some people believe they're not good enough. Others believe the world is dangerous, or that love always ends in pain. These beliefs aren't facts, they're stories, and stories can be rewritten. Challenging your beliefs takes courage. It means asking, where did this idea come from? Is it true? Is it helping me? Sometimes the answer surprises you. Sometimes it hurts. But growth often begins with discomfort. This doesn't mean throwing away everything you've ever believed. It means loosening your grip, becoming curious, letting in new ideas, evolving. You are not your beliefs. You are the awareness behind those beliefs, the part of you that can question, reflect, and choose. And that part, that's who you really are.
Life is mostly grey areas. We love black and white thinking. It's simple, clean, easy to label. This is right, that is wrong. This person is good, that one is bad. But life doesn't work that way. Most of the time, life is made of grey areas, messy, complex, and full of contradictions. We want certainty. We want rules. But then real life shows up. A friend hurts you, but didn't mean to. A job gives you money, but drains your soul. A decision feels both exciting and terrifying. Welcome to the grey zone, where most of life actually happens. Why does this matter? Because the more you cling to absolutes, the more you suffer when the world refuses to fit into your categories. You judge too quickly, you misunderstand people, you reject things that make you uncomfortable instead of learning from them. Grey areas don't mean there's no truth. They mean truth is layered, that two things can be true at once, that someone can love you and disappoint you, that you can be brave and afraid, that you can care deeply and still walk away. Learning to live in the grey is a sign of emotional maturity. It's what allows you to forgive, to pause before reacting, to sit with difficult questions without rushing to easy answers. It helps you become more compassionate, not just to others, but to yourself. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to be all one thing or all another. You just need to be honest and open.
The Dunning-Kruger effect. Ever notice how the loudest, most confident people are sometimes the least informed, and how those with the most knowledge often hesitate, ask questions, and admit they don't know it all? That's the Dunning-Kruger effect, a psychological bias where people with low ability tend to overestimate their competence, while those with higher ability tend to underestimate theirs. It sounds strange, but it makes sense. When you know very little about something, you're unaware of how much you don't know. That creates a false confidence. Meanwhile, those who've studied or practiced deeply begin to see how complex the topic really is, and their confidence drops. In simple terms, the beginner thinks they've mastered it. The expert knows they never fully will. This effect shows up everywhere. In politics, business, art, science, even everyday arguments. And it explains a lot of frustration, why bad ideas are shouted with certainty, while good ones are whispered with caution. But it's not just about other people. The Dunning-Kruger effect lives in all of us. At some point, we've all thought we knew more than we did. And hopefully, we've also had moments of humble realization. Wow,
I had no idea how deep this goes. The key is awareness. When you feel too sure of yourself, pause, ask questions, stay curious. Humility isn't weakness, it's the gateway to real learning. And when someone comes across as arrogant or clueless, don't rush to mock them. They might just be on the first step of a journey you've already walked. True wisdom isn't loud, it's honest. And it keeps its ego in check because it knows how much more there is to learn.
Heuristics rule your brain. Every day you make thousands of decisions: what to eat, what to say, where to go, how to respond. But here's the thing. You're not weighing every choice with slow, careful logic. You'd never get through the day. Instead, your brain uses heuristics, mental shortcuts that help you decide fast. Sounds helpful, right? And it is. Heuristics are essential. They keep you from overthinking every little thing. For example, you might assume a crowded restaurant has good food, or that a taller person is more authoritative. These snap judgments are your brain's way of saying, let's go with what usually works. But here's the catch. Heuristics aren't always accurate. They're fast, not deep, and they can lead to bias, distortion, and error. You might use the availability heuristic, judging something based on how easily an example comes to mind. If you see news about a plane crash, you might feel like flying is unsafe, even though it's statistically one of the safest ways to travel. Or the representativeness heuristic, assuming someone fits a stereotype based on how closely they match your mental model, even if it leads to false conclusions. We also use anchoring, where the first piece of information we hear sets the tone for everything after. A price tag says $1,000, and suddenly $700 feels like a bargain, even if the product's real value is far lower. Knowing heuristics rules your brain doesn't mean becoming paranoid. It means becoming aware. It means learning to slow down when the stakes are high, asking yourself, am I jumping to conclusions? Am I relying on a shortcut that might be misleading? The brain likes speed, but truth often needs slowness. So when the situation matters, relationships, money, beliefs, question your instinct. Don't just trust the first answer your brain throws at you. Look deeper. Your shortcuts can be useful, but your awareness of them, that's where real intelligence begins.
Cultural conditioning. You've been shaped by the world around you in ways you probably don't even realize. From the moment you were born, you were surrounded by culture, language, beliefs, customs, gender roles, expectations. Over time, these messages sink in so deeply they feel like your own thoughts. But often, they aren't. That's cultural conditioning. It's the invisible hand that tells you what success looks like, what beauty looks like, what kind of emotions are acceptable, what makes a man strong or a woman valuable. These ideas are passed down through families, schools, media, religion, and society at large. You don't question them at first because they feel normal. Everyone around you believes them too. But what's considered normal in one culture may be completely different in another. In some places, silence is seen as respectful. In others, it's viewed as rude. In one culture, being direct is honest. In another, it's offensive. There is no universal script. What feels like absolute truth may actually just be local training. The danger comes when we confuse conditioning with identity. We think this is just who I am.
But often, we are acting out scripts that were handed to us before we had the chance to question them. Unlearning cultural conditioning doesn't mean rejecting your heritage or background. It means getting curious. It means asking, is this belief truly mine? Does it help me thrive? Or am I just repeating what I've always seen? When you step outside the lens of your own culture, even just briefly, the world widens. You become more compassionate, less judgmental. You stop assuming that everyone's values should mirror yours. You start living with more intention, not by default, but by choice.
Broken window theory. Imagine an abandoned building with one broken window. No one fixes it. Soon another window shatters. Then graffiti appears. Trash piles up. People start treating the area like it doesn't matter. That's the idea behind the broken window theory, the concept that small signs of disorder encourage larger problems. It's not just about buildings, it's about human behavior. When people see neglect, they assume no one's paying attention. That opens the door for more rule-breaking, littering, vandalism, even crime. But when a space is cared for, clean, maintained, respected, people tend to mirror that behavior. It applies to personal life too. If your room is always messy, you might feel less motivated to clean or even to care. One broken habit, skipping a workout, leaving dishes overnight, can lead to more. Not because you're lazy, but because your environment is telling your brain, this isn't a place where things are cared for. The broken window theory has been both praised and criticized. In policing, it was used to justify cracking down on small crimes to prevent big ones, but sometimes unfairly. But at its core, the idea reveals something important. Your surroundings influence your mindset. That means small actions matter. Tidying your space, fixing the small problem before it grows, restoring order, even in tiny ways, can have a ripple effect, making you feel more in control, more intentional, more grounded. It's not about perfection, it's about signaling care. Fix the broken window, whether it's in your home, your habits, or your thoughts, and you might be surprised how much else begins to improve.
Victim mentality is addictive. Life is unfair. People hurt you, things go wrong, plans collapse. And when that pain piles up, it's easy, almost natural, to fall into a mindset where you see yourself as the one who's always getting the short end of the stick. That's called victim mentality, and while it often starts from real pain, it can quietly become addictive. Why addictive? Because being the victim brings certain psychological rewards. You get sympathy, you don't have to take responsibility, you get to avoid risk, you can blame the world instead of looking inward. For a while, it even feels safe, like a fortress built from excuses and righteous anger. But here's the catch. Staying in victim mode traps you. You start seeing the world as something that acts on you instead of something you can act within. You feel powerless, bitter, and stuck. Even when opportunities arise, you might not take them because part of you believes nothing will ever work out anyway. This doesn't mean your pain isn't valid. Many people who fall into victim mentality have been through real trauma, real injustice, real heartbreak. But pain and powerlessness are not the same. You can be hurt and still heal. You can be wronged and still rise. Breaking free means shifting your story from "why is this happening to me" to "what can I do with this now?" It's not about blaming yourself, it's about reclaiming agency, the power to choose your response, to take action, to grow, to stop waiting for the world to change and start changing yourself within it.
Victim mentality whispers that you're stuck, that it's not your fault, that nothing's ever going to change. But that voice, it's lying to you. It's keeping you small. Your story doesn't end in the hurt. It begins again in the choice to stop letting it define you.
Cognitive load limits decision-making. Your brain, as powerful as it is, has limits. Every decision you make, from what to wear to how to respond in an argument, uses up mental energy. The more decisions you're forced to make in a short time, the heavier that mental load becomes. That's called cognitive load, and it affects everything from your focus to your mood and even your health. Think of your brain like a battery. When it's fresh, you make thoughtful, creative choices. But as the day wears on, with emails, notifications, questions, interruptions, small tasks, that battery drains. You start cutting corners. You rely more on habits, shortcuts, or even impulse. That's why people are more likely to make poor decisions, like unhealthy food choices or snapping at someone after a long, mentally draining day. This doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And it's why simplifying your life matters. Steve Jobs famously wore the same outfit every day, not because he lacked taste, but because he understood decision fatigue. The fewer minor choices you have to make, the more energy you have for the big ones. That's the key to reducing cognitive load. It's not about avoiding thinking. It's about preserving your thinking power for what really matters. Build routines, batch similar tasks, say no to things that don't align with your goals. Get rid of visual clutter. Give your brain space. Most importantly, rest it. Sleep isn't just for the body. It's when your brain clears out junk data and resets for tomorrow. You can't avoid decisions, but you can protect your mind from being overwhelmed by too many small ones. Because when your cognitive load is lighter, your judgment gets sharper and your life runs smoother.
Language shapes reality. Words aren't just sounds we use to talk. They are tools we use to frame the world. The language you speak and the words you choose don't just describe reality, they shape it. This is one of the most overlooked truths about being human. Different cultures have words for emotions or experiences that others don't. Some languages have no future tense, which actually affects how their speakers plan. Others have dozens of words for snow or love, giving people richer ways to interpret what they feel. This shows that language isn't just a mirror of reality, it's a filter. It influences how you notice, understand, and even feel things. But it goes even deeper. The words you say to yourself in your head shape how you see yourself. Saying, "I'm stupid" after a mistake is very different from saying, "I made a mistake." One is a label, the other is an event. One becomes identity, the other allows growth. Language also affects relationships. Saying, "You never listen" sparks conflict. Saying, "I don't feel heard" invites understanding. Same situation, different frame, different outcome. This is why affirmations, journaling, and even therapy work. They help you use language to untangle your thoughts, to rewrite your internal script. When you name your emotions, you gain power over them. When you shift your story, your reality shifts with it. You don't have to speak perfectly, but you do need to speak consciously. Watch your words, especially the ones you repeat often, because over time, those words become beliefs, and beliefs become behavior. Language is more than expression. It's architecture.
It builds the world inside your head and sometimes even the one outside it.
False consensus effect. Ever assume that most people think like you do? That your opinions are just common sense? That your worldview is how most people see things? That's the false consensus effect, a psychological bias where you overestimate how many others share your beliefs, habits, and behaviors. It's not intentional. It happens quietly through the way we're wired. We tend to surround ourselves with people who agree with us, family, friends, co-workers, even online communities. Over time, this creates an echo chamber where we keep hearing the same views reinforced again and again. It feels like the truth. It feels like the majority, but often it's not. This effect shows up everywhere. You might think everyone hates a certain public figure because your circle does, or assume everyone supports your political stance, your lifestyle, your opinions on health, education, relationships. But step outside your bubble and the landscape looks very different. The danger of false consensus is that it breeds judgment. When we believe everyone agrees with us, anyone who doesn't can seem irrational, extreme, or even threatening. We stop listening. We stop learning. We start thinking they must be wrong because we must be right. But in reality, the world is wildly diverse in thought, background, belief, and behavior. What feels normal to you may seem unthinkable to someone else, and vice versa. The truth isn't found in assuming you already know, it's found in staying open. The best way to fight the false consensus effect is curiosity. Talk to people outside your bubble. Ask, don't assume. Listen to understand, not just to argue. The goal isn't to agree with everyone. It's to remember that your perspective is just one of many.
Silence is a tool. In a world that never stops talking, full of pings, posts, podcasts, and pressure to speak, silence can feel awkward, even threatening. But that's only because we've forgotten something powerful. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a tool. Silence creates space. Space to think. Space to feel. Space for others to speak. When used wisely, silence becomes one of the most effective forms of communication and personal power. In conversation, silence can say more than words. A pause after a question adds weight. A moment of stillness after bad news can show respect. Refusing to react instantly, especially in heated situations, gives you time to respond, not just react. People who are comfortable with silence often come across as more confident, more thoughtful, more grounded. In relationships, silence can draw others in. Instead of filling every gap with noise, you give the other person room to be real, to reveal themselves. It invites honesty. It invites depth. Sometimes the most profound connection happens when nothing is said at all. Silence also sharpens awareness. Without constant distraction, you start noticing your own thoughts. You recognize emotions you'd buried. You make better decisions because you're not rushing. But silence takes discipline. Most people are afraid of it. We use noise to hide from boredom, anxiety, or discomfort. But avoiding silence means avoiding growth. If you never sit with yourself, you never get to know who you are beneath the noise. So try it. Turn off the background sound. Sit in a room with no phone, no music, no conversation. Let silence stretch.
At first, it might feel strange, even unsettling. But give it time, because eventually, silence stops being a void and starts being a mirror. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all.
Time perception warps with age. When you were a child, summers felt endless. Waiting a week for your birthday felt like forever. But now, years blur together, weeks vanish. Your 20s feel like they happened last month, even if it's been a decade. That's not your imagination. It's real. Your perception of time changes as you age. It's one of the strangest truths about being alive. Time itself doesn't speed up, but your experience of it does. A year at age 6 is 1/6 of your entire life. At 60, it's just a small fraction. As your total time expands, each individual moment feels smaller by comparison. But it's not just math. Routine plays a role. When life becomes predictable, same job, same place, same people, your brain stops marking time in rich detail. It compresses the memory. A year of novelty feels longer than a year of repetition. That's why your childhood seemed to stretch. Everything was new. And that's why adulthood can feel like fast forward. This truth can be sobering, but it's also empowering. Because once you know that time feels faster as you age, you can start living in a way that stretches it out again. How? By seeking novelty, by breaking routine, by learning, traveling, connecting, creating, anything that makes your brain pay attention. You slow the rush not by stopping time, but by filling it with meaning. And don't forget the small moments. Presence doesn't only live in big adventures. It lives in deep conversations, in a quiet walk, in a meal you actually taste. Time flies, yes, but you're not powerless. You can't slow the clock, but you can slow the feeling of being lost in it. Live with intention. Notice more. Feel deeper. And make the time you have truly yours. I hope you enjoyed the video and found something that shifted your perspective, even just a little. These aren't just ideas to remember, they're truths to live by. If you want more deep, thought-provoking content like this, feel free to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and above all, sleep smart.